Presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. We're here with our Sunday stream of consciousness. We're happy to have you with us. We welcome all the viewers live on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter. We'll be rebroadcasting this at noontime on Roku. Get those Roku devices downloaded, guys. Doing really well. We're doing really well here. Really excited about what we've been doing. So please do that. I thank all the groups, as I always like to do, all the groups that let me share this, whether it's baseball groups, football groups, hockey groups. Thank you for letting me share. Those of you that do, and the ones that don't, I certainly understand. But we got some great following. I'm going to start getting into some more groups as well, try to get some more exposure. We're reaching, guys, engagements weekly. We're in the like 10,000 engagements weekly across the platform. So it's really, really, really good. So it's funny, Kenny Gifford brought up last week about advertising. You know, anybody who wants to advertise on the show, we get in front of 10,000 people weekly. But again, they're not all local, so that'd be a little problem for people who want to go locally, but we'll give them some good rates. A couple of things I want to bring up. We talked a lot about the Dream Ride experience. I'll play the promo during the show at some point today, probably at the end like I normally do. In fact, I'll probably play it here in a second. August 26th through 28th, great event, great. Also a great fundraiser. Make sure you look into that. And also, I haven't touched base on this recently, and I guess the Dream Ride's kind of giving it a back seat in my mind a little bit, but it's coming up soon. In June 27th, Northeast Streaming Sports and the La Fagata restaurant in Connecticut will be hosting Keep the Dream Alive to support Connecticut semi-pro football. Northeast Streaming Sports and several other people will be part of this. Myself, I'll be there. Mac and Jack will be there. Jack Hirsch, as you know, is a Hall of Fame boxing sports writer. The MC that day will be Joe D'Ambrosio, who's like Mr. Sports in Connecticut. You probably know him from ESPN. He's done a lot of work with ESPN Radio since 1996. He's done a ton of stuff in Connecticut, been the voice of Connecticut football and basketball. He'll be the MC. Jim Jeffcoat, the great Dallas Cowboy lineman, will be there as well. He'll be flying in for that event. Myself, the Philly sports guy, who is a colorful figure. I don't know if he'll be in any of his characters that day or just as Jamie Paggs. We'll see. Iceman John Scully, tremendous boxer at one point, and now he's a very famous trainer in some of the lightweight divisions. We mentioned Jack Hirsch, Hall of Fame sports writer, boxing sports writer, and Dr. Paul Semendinger, who will host the show. Let's start spreading the news on Northeast Streaming Sports as well, all about the Yankees. He'll be there as well. So we'll be doing some live shows, some giveaways, and be a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to come down that day, I think it's 3 to 9. It's a Monday. So I know a lot of you are probably working, but again, just a great event. So let me get to some good mornings here. We got a lot of stuff going on here. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Good to have you with us. Good morning, Ken Gifford up on the mountain. Good to see you. Anthony Price, good morning. How are you? Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, is in the room. Alan's in the room. Good morning. And Kenny, Jeff, was good but great. Oh, he was a great player. He was a great player. He really was. I think he was a great player. Maybe I'm biased because I have to, face him weekly. But I think he was a great player. Mad New Yorker will not be present. Oh, you should come up. Good morning, Bob. How are you today? So, guys, just a little look at the show today. You will certainly get into your topics and comments as well. We'll have Jim Biringer in here in a few minutes to talk about the Stanley Cup Playoffs. The champions just won't go away. The Lightning up 2-0. Rangers can't seem to not play well until they get in a hole. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then some of the other stuff going on around the NHL, including the other two series. We'll get into Major League Baseball. We'll talk about the Mets injuries. We'll talk about the Yankees win yesterday, the Josh Donaldson, Tim Anderson dust up, which to me is, much ado about nothing. But I do have some opinion on both sides of this, by the way. And I really hate that I'm going to find myself defending Josh Donaldson a little bit because he's not my favorite guy in the world. Very chippy ball player, but I have some other theories about this whole thing, and it's not to dismiss what anybody thinks, but we'll talk about this as we dive in. Also, we'll look around the league a little bit as we usually do. Maybe look at some early potential trade buzz. At least players that will be talked about a lot in the coming weeks. A lot of teams will be involved that weren't in the past. It should be a very active time because with the expanded playoffs, which I hate, more teams will think they have a chance, and realistically they will. And we'll look into some other news and notes, maybe some news and notes around the NFL, the NBA playoff update if we get to it. And then Mark Mancini will be in about 10:25. So what else we got here? Whoop, Jesus. Rick loves the doctor. Doctor's really good, by the way, if he can get a word in between Mac and Jack. Jack does sometimes get off on tangents, but the doc is really good. I like having him on, and we should get him on here some Sundays for a few minutes too. He's a busy guy, and I do like the times that I've interacted with him. It's been a lot of fun. Bob's awesome. I'm not sure what's awesome, but thank you. Carlos is off to Florida. Carlos, your family is like everywhere. You're celebrating something like every other week. So he'll be with his kiddos. Well, you'll be missed, Carlos. So again, we'll have Jim Biringer here in just a few minutes. The Rangers find themselves in a 2-0 hole, not scoring any points. We'll talk to Jim about, some of the issues. The kid line not playing well. Also, the vets who were making all the money not playing well. Panarin. Zibanejad. I wonder if I said his name right. Jim will straighten me out there. He's very good with the names. To be a hockey, it's a very good point. To be a hockey writer, commentator, man, you have got to know the names. I'm terrible with Smith and Jones sometimes. So Jim does very well with some of these really tough names. So anyway, I think these two guys need to step up and start earning their money. And we'll talk about the issues they've had with a strength that's been something that's been a strength all year, which has been their power play. And we're certainly going to dive into the Lightning, as I said, as the champions who looked like they were fading down the stretch, came on strong near the end of the season, came back to win their first round matchup, and now lead 2-0 over the Panthers. So we'll see what happens there. What do we got? A few comments before Jim comes in. Even in the losses, the Hurricanes cannot win if they play this way through the Cup Series. Rangers have a shot. Well, sure they do. Listen, again, remember, the old saying is that these series don't start until the home team loses a game. Rangers are heading home. Rangers can get things right. But, again, if the Rangers play this way, they can't win. Let's not, make this one-sided. Hurricanes are up 2-0. Good old school pitching duels the last couple of days between the Rangers and Astros. We can talk a little bit about that when we get into the baseball segment. Alan, certainly bring it up. I love old school baseball. Alan sent me a message the other night, and forgive me because I don't, and you can mention his name. I forget the pitcher we were talking about. Went 9 innings, guys. 9 innings. In 2022, 9 innings. Great job. Still waiting on Larry. Larry's been kind of gone dark on me. We'll get Larry. I want to get Larry on the college football huddle soon to talk about the spring practices and game for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons and a little bit of ACC news. I'll reach out to him again today. But I think he's probably been busy with Wake Forest baseball, and I'm not sure where they stand. So I'll check that out. And if they're whether they're going to the College World Series or not, I have no idea. I think we're getting to West Coast weather, right? It's been, by the way, guys, hope you're surviving the heat wave wherever you are. It's hit most of the country. We were at 90. We went out to eat early yesterday. It was 97 degrees as we drove up I-90. There's no way, shape, or form. Again, we're going to dive into this, Stephen, and I don't think it was racist at all. Again, I'll touch on a little bit about my comments that I'll talk about. I want to dive in too much because Jim Biringer will be coming in, and I don't want to delay him. So we'll dive into this more. I think this is, first of all, in a 2019 interview, Anderson described himself as the next Jackie Robinson, which in itself is absurd. So Donaldson, who's a chippy guy, and I do not like Josh Donaldson even a little bit. I'll root for him because he's on my team. But against the Yankees, he was a chippy guy, thought he was getting thrown at all the time. He's a baby and a crybaby and an instigator. But he's not a racist. And believe me, when this started last week, the White Sox aren't playing well. I smell Tony La Russa all over this, firing his team up. So that's kind of where you'll hear me talking about this a little bit later on. Yeah, tell him I'll be reaching out to him. I'll be texting him. But he didn't get back to my last text, so hopefully everything's okay in Larry's world. Busy guy, I'm sure. So Stephen, we will jump into this just to go back to your comment a little bit. Didn't read the rest of this. So he was responding to Hunter's cursing him out over what Donaldson said about the Sox pitcher. Remember, there's also some other history with the White Sox and Donaldson as well, because he called out, I believe it was Rondon last year when all the stuff was going about the foreign substances and the pitchers and the spider attack. And he called out, obviously, the Yankees ace as well, which, again, is a bunch of nonsense in my mind. Don't give the pitchers any chance to, have an advantage. I haven't heard from Mr. Biringer. Hopefully he's doing okay today. He should be popping in here anytime, hopefully. But we'll dive into all of those things. There's just so much going on in the world today. And Stephen, again, to back up your comment, I will say again, I don't think this is a racial thing at all. And Anderson, again, by reports from the Yankees and Josh Donaldson, he's made these remarks before, and Anderson has laughed over it. So this is why I really think Tony La Russa's fingerprints are all over this incident. And I think it's much ado about nothing. And by the way, in saying that, and I said this morning on the Mac and Jack show as we were having this discussion, and we were all kind of in agreement. Listen, I know that racism is not gone in this country. It's still here. It's just not overt as it used to be, which is kind of worse in a way. But this isn't a racist situation. I mean, come on. There's enough problems without making stuff up. Kenny's got some steak, eggs, and waffles. Oh, boy. The last part is a problem. Get that universal translator out, Rick. We're going to need it in a few minutes. Seems like Donaldson's always looking for a fight. I agree with that comment 100%, Alan. He's an instigator. I wanted to kill him a couple of times when he played with the Blue Jays and they played the Yankees. He created some issues that did not need to be. Jesus, he was constantly thinking of the Yankee pitchers were throwing at him. I mean, even in instances where it would be stupid for them to be throwing and hitting him. He's just, whatever. I'm not a big fan. La Russa still has some fire at 77. He was out there running his mouth. He always does. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I really believe Tony La Russa was probably running his mouth from last week. This started last week when there was an incident with the two of them at third base, pushing and shoving each other a little bit. And it blew up yesterday. And I guarantee you, La Russa is in here somewhere. La Russa needs to retire. I don't know. Well, look at the team's not responding. This is a win now. This is a win now team, and they flamed out the playoffs last year. They're not playing well now. Not playing well is a key to why I think La Russa is involved in this 100%. Okay. He did that with the A's too. He did it with everybody. Even the Blue Jays, he was the worst with the Yankees. It was awful. I'll get to this last comment by Steven, then I'm going to whatever it takes to fire up the team. I don't care. I don't have a problem with him firing up his team. I have a problem with the way it's being blown out of proportion in the press and whatnot. I'll get Jim here in a second. Trying to get to Alan Hunter instigated this. Maybe so. Grandel instigated it, when he was at the plate and called out Donaldson. So let's not forget that. And we'll dive more into this in a little bit. He's been in upper management. I think Tony La Russa probably ought to go away, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get some hockey talk in here. And we bring in the great Jim Biringer from FullPressHockey.com and the last word on hockey on the Mad Radio Network. Welcome, Jim Biringer. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very good. Another interesting week in Stanley Cup playoff action in the NHL. A few things I want to chat with you about. Certainly want to focus, I think, on the champs just refusing to go away. And the Rangers' struggles. They can't seem to play until they get themselves in a hole. I know we talk a lot about the fact that, these series don't start till the home team loses. Well, it's time to go win a game, Rangers. So I think we'll start there.
Yeah, might as well. They're playing this afternoon. And good morning, everybody listening here. TGI Sports Talk this morning here on a Sunday. Might as well start there. Thank you, Amanda, for that. I appreciate that. Thank you. But
you pay her, or is this
no?
You sure?
I don't. No,
okay, just checking.
No,
because Kenny Gifford says you send him money too. So I don't know.
No,
I don't know. Maybe it's all rumors. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's. But anyway, we'll start there. Look, Game 3 goes today at Madison Square Garden. It's gonna be hot in that building. I've been there in the games in the summertime this time of year. The ice is it's gonna be slushy. It's not gonna be a pretty hockey game.
Who's that favor? Who does that favor with that kind of situation cropping up? Do you think in this game?
I think it favors Carolina, to be honest, the way they play defensively. I think they're going to just look to take advantage. You saw go back to 14 in the final. I believe it was Game 3. It was just as hot. LA Kings just took advantage of it, and they just know how to play that defensive style. Rangers want to run and gun. You don't want to do that on crappy ice. It's going to be hot in there. It's going to be slushy. It's not going to be good. Conditions are not favorable today if you want to play hockey anywhere. But maybe they'll be able to figure it out. But in that building where the ice is, it's not going to be great. But you know what? The problem is for the Rangers right now is your big stars aren't stepping up. You look at the other series, you see who it is. Big guys are stepping up, making plays. Connor McDavid has the Edmonton Oilers put him on his back. Guy has 20 points in 9 games. He's getting close to Gretzky numbers. This is Jordan-like stuff with what he's doing with the Oilers. You see what Kucherov's doing with the Lightning. You're seeing it around. The top players are stepping up. Igor Shesterkin has kept the New York Rangers in this game. They probably should have won game. No, I'm not going to say probably. They should have won game 1 against Carolina, but obviously Kakko misses the open net, and that would have iced the game, and then they tied it, and they lost in overtime on a nice deflection by his own player. Second game, it was 2-0. Shesterkin's doing everything, but you just can't rely on the kid line all the time to win games. Those guys, they're the best players on the ice right now, but they're not doing – you can't – if Panarin, Zibanejad, and guys like that are not doing anything – we talked about it last week. Zibanejad came out of witness protection. It looks like he went back into it because it's crazy.
I hope she said you're welcome. But
I
brought that up earlier before you had come in that Panarin and Zibanejad have got to step up. Good players down 2-0. Good players step up, right? In big moments. Remember, if you're a Ranger fan, you certainly go back to Mark Messier guaranteeing a win against.
I don't want to talk about that.
I know you wouldn't want to talk about it,
but you're going to talk about that.
And we'll only mention it in passing. Good players can do that kind of thing and back it up. And these guys are getting paid to be that kind of player, and neither one of them is showing it right now.
Well, real quick, because even though I didn't want to talk about it, you go back to Game 6 in '94 in the conference final. If Rangers fans remember, they were down 2-0 to the Devils after the first period.
I do,
and they were if the Devils could close out a game, if the Devils could have closed out a game that year, they would have been going to the Stanley Cup final, but they didn't. And regardless of what side you're on, every hockey person that knows it and covered the game said that was one of the best conference finals in history.
It was.
It was one of the best conference finals, regardless of whatever. Look, the Devils got their cup the following year, so it is what it is. But like you said, big players step up in big time moments, and those guys have to do it. If the Rangers want to go on, look, this was going to be a tough matchup regardless of wherever. Carolina, for some reason, has their number, but it's not on goaltending. Igor Shesterkin found his game, and because he was a big reason why the Rangers were down in this series against Pittsburgh. Yeah. But their 5-on-5 play has to be better.
The Rangers, power play.
And the power play too. I mean, Panarin, look, outside of the Game 7 overtime goal, he was invisible in Game 7 against Pittsburgh. So they need to step up here in a big way. But it's going to be tough. Carolina's a good team. The matchup is kind of favorable. But as I said, their 5-on-5 play hasn't been great, and they've outperformed their analytics pretty much all year. So it's eventually it was going to catch up with them. But the thing is now, it's do or die. I mean, you go down 3-0 against Carolina, it's going to be really, really tough.
You mentioned the kid line. I mean, would there be any benefit to breaking that line up or not?
I mean, the problem is I know Kakko started out the year on the second line, but the problem is they've been playing so well together as a unit. Yeah. I don't know if you do that, and I think maybe you just give them more ice time.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, too. I mean, again, they should be able to handle it at, their age.
I mean, look, everybody talks about Kakko and Lafreniere and these guys potentially being busts and everything, but these guys have stepped up in the playoffs, more physical, especially Lafreniere. He's going to be a good player for this team down the road, and you just got to be impressed with what they're doing.
Anything else you want to talk about there before we jump to the champions?
I mean, look, the first two games could have gone either way. Both goalies have been playing really well, Ronta and Shesterkin. In Carolina, Carolina doesn't lose at home for some reason, but they probably should have in one of those games. Fluke bounce here and there, but what? Let's see, like you said, if the Rangers lose this game today, it's going to be tough sledding to come back 3-0 against this team. If they win this one, okay, you're back in the series, but again, against Carolina, it's going to be tough, but they've played them close, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, again, this is a must-win for sure. And as you said, if the ice favors Hurricanes, that's not a good sign for the Rangers. But I think they'll come back and win this game. I think it's going to be a very close game, I would say.
I think so.
Or some point. Their defense is playing well, as you said. Iger's playing well. Like they really haven't put it together in all parts of the game yet in these playoffs, right?
Right. No.
For a period, maybe.
Yeah, but period here and there, but they haven't played a full 60 minutes. I think these last two games have been indicative outside of, look, like you said, in game one, if he scores, the game's pretty much, it's over. They go down and score, and, it was just a tough play, Aho below the goal line, and then the overtime deflection by Ian Cole. No one had him on the bingo card. So, I mean, you just don't know when it goes to overtime what happens. But the problem is when the Rangers were up, they were on their heels too much, and Carolina was dictating play. And you can't do that when you're up in a game. You have to be more aggressive.
Yeah, and that game is at 3:30 today. As we mentioned. Another game this afternoon is Game 3 of the Lightning and Panthers, and the champions have taken it 2. We thought now the home team's already lost 2, and so they're heading back home up 2-0. They got to be feeling very good about their chances here in the series.
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, look, to me, I think the series is over. Even though it's 2-0, that's a demoralizing victory with 3.8 seconds left on the clock, tied at 1, and I mean, they had tied the game. Their Panthers were, tied the game in the second. They had momentum. A lot of people say, "Oh, Jim, you don't know what to talk about." Tampa Bay was just biding their time. Florida had Tampa Bay on their heels. They did. Tampa Bay was playing too defensively. They weren't being aggressive enough. They weren't generating a lot of offense. But to talk about it, it's simple hockey. Get pucks out. They don't score. Like I said to somebody, I said it when I was a Devil fan, people could hear me outside my window yelling, "Get the puck out. Just get the puck out. Get it out. Get it out. Get it out." But Ruda makes a great play on the defenseman for Florida. It gets to the line. Palat chips it back. Kucherov, bang, in the net to Ross Colton, Jersey boy, UVM guy, and that's all she wrote. I don't know what both defensemen shouldn't have gone below the goal line. I would say no, like one defenseman shouldn't even gone below the goal line. No one's scoring behind the net.
Right.
Like, no one's scoring the Michigan goal with 3.8 seconds left. Like, that's not happening. But that's what the champs do. They find a way. They play look, it takes sacrifice, will, everything. You got Steven, you got the captain blocking shots. McDonough's block. All these guys are blocking shots, sacrificing bodies up and down the runway. No Braden Point. And what does Kucherov do? He's just there as always. I mean, the problem is the Florida Panthers can't score on a power play. They're 0 for 25 in the playoffs. Look, they got away with certain things against Washington. If Washington could close games out, the Panthers are eliminated in the first round. And Washington's playing Tampa right now, but they're not. But the champs have found their game. They found it late in Game 6 against Toronto. It carried over to Game 7. It's carried over in the second round. And until somebody beats them, the champs are the champs for a reason.
Very good point. I mean, we said this last year that, they were playing like this was their last shot, right? And,
yeah, exactly.
Like this is their last shot. They just keep doing it.
I mean, everybody asks John Cooper what motivates him. And he's like, I saw a video from last year. It's like, why not go for 3? It's like, exactly. Like they want to be this dynasty. They look, and like I had this debate with somebody whether it's good for sports or not. I personally love it because I want to see it because I haven't seen it. Like I wasn't around when the Islanders did. I caught the end of the Oilers. Like I want to see like a 3-peat. It'd be awesome. Like it was good for baseball when the Yankees were doing it. It's great for sports.
People don't, the worst thing ever happened to sports is all these commissioners and people run the games, which ones we're talking about, thinking parity is the way to go. Dynasties are important because people need somebody to love and somebody to hate.
Right, exactly. And you're going to watch the Lightning. You're either going to watch them to win or watch them to lose.
Right. Agreed. And where's this? I mean, is this a real rivalry? Is this historically maybe not as big as some others, but where does it rank? Is it a good rivalry?
Sunshine State Showdown. I mean, this is great for hockey because we never had it. It was never there because the Panthers were the Lightning's little brother, vice versa. The teams were never good at the same time. The Lightning were really good. The Panthers were, So, I mean, outside of the early 90s, they were okay. Now they've met in the playoffs. This is where the rivalries are built. It's carried over in the regular season. They don't like each other, and it's great.
Let's move on to the other two. To be quite honest with you, I've been so focused on these two series, I haven't really paid a lot of attention to what's going on out west. But we've got some series out there that are getting interesting. Calgary with a I think 2-1 lead, right?
No, 1-1. Oilers tied it up the other night.
Oh, 1-1. I'm thinking of the other series. That's right. The Avs went up 2-1.
Yeah, Avs went up 2-1 last night. Yeah.
Yeah. What takeaways do you have from these two series?
I mean, Battle of Alberta has lived up to the hype, to be honest. I mean, I didn't think we were going to get 20-something goals in 2 games, to be honest. I mean, there were 15 goals in the first game, 8 in the second game. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that. And I thought the Flames were going to run away with game 1. It was 3-0, like, in the first 5 minutes. But, Connor McDavid willed his team back. Bad goaltending on both ends. No good defense. Daryl Sutter not happy. Flames really should be up 2-0, to be honest. You're up. You have a bunch, two goal leads. We're up 6-2. You can't blow that kind of stuff. I mean, McDavid is just McDavid, and he's just going to get his points. But, I mean, they got to figure out a way to stop it. But Sutter hockey is good defensive hockey, and the Flames have to get back to that.
How many times have there been 15 goals scored in a playoff hockey game in the NHL, I wonder?
80s. Go back to the 80s.
Was there a lot then?
Yeah, I mean, it was just nonstop. I mean, if you go back and look at like the Battle of Alberta in the 80s, I think they were combining for like at least 15 to 20 goals because like everybody could just score at will. Especially those 80s Oilers, they just scored like it was nothing because of that lineup. But I mean, look, Calgary, it's going to go back to Edmonton. It's going to be hyped. People are going to be amped. Calgary's offense is coming alive, but their defense has to be a lot better. Goudreau's looking good, Kachuk, all those guys. But I think Sutter's got to just, get them back playing good defense, not take stupid penalties, not let the Oilers back in the game. Like, just if you're going to go up early, keep the gas pedal on, play good defensive hockey, and move on. I mean, they've just blown too many leads. And, like I said, McDavid willed his team to win in game 2, and that's what he's done pretty much all playoffs. If you didn't think Connor McDavid was the best player in the world right now, well, I think he's showing you why.
Yeah, good point. The other series, a little bit more of a little more goaltending controversy when we had a little wipeout of who was it?
Bennington last night. Yeah,
Kadri got taken out. Bennington got taken out by Kadri in this game. Anything to that, or is it just a good hockey play?
I mean, it's a hockey play. It happens. Collisions at the net. Kadri was trying to stop. The defenseman for St. Louis kind of nudged him a little bit. They were both trying to stop. They collided, and they both went into Bennington. It happened. Not like it was a malice play, though. Kadri, I guess, got a water bottle or something thrown at him at the post-game interview on TNT last night by Bennington.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, these two teams don't like each other. It goes back to last year. Kadri got suspended because of a hit in the St. Louis series. I mean, Craig Berube said, well, just look at his reputation. Well, I mean, Craig, you look in the mirror, you weren't the great, you were like a Kadri type player when you played too. So, I mean, everybody, these two teams just don't like each other. There's a lot of playoff rivalry history going back a while. Colorado's up, 2-1 in this series. They're the guys they brought in are stepping up as well. They're going to win despite Kemper's play. I mean, let's be honest. Colorado's going to win the Stanley Cup or, get there not because of Darcy Kemper. It's going to be in spite of Darcy Kemper because their offense and defense is just that elite because he's given some soft goals. Now, granted, some of the goals he give up, players got to get their sticks out of the way. Just let the goalie see the shot. Get your stick out of the way and let him do that. That's his job. He's got the pads and gets paid to do that for a reason. So, but Makar looks really good. I mean, St. Louis has been able to slow him down a little bit, but he's still so gifted back there. But Colorado's just so good, so dominant. But, St. Louis is hanging in like what I expected. But if Bennington's out for a long time, and he's the reason why those first two games were so close, only went to overtime, then St. Louis took over and won that one. If Bennington's out for a while, that's going to stink because, Husso hasn't played since the first series, hadn't looked good against Minnesota in games 2 and 3 in the first round. Didn't look really that good last night. So Bennington was in form and finding form, and it's a shame because if he goes down, then, Colorado could just like take it over this series and win it. And it's a shame because Bennington was playing so well, and St. Louis, to me, was one of those teams that could give Colorado a run for their money.
Yeah, well, if these series continue the way most of the first round went, next week we'll be back here talking about the, 6 and 7 game series, hopefully, for hockey fans.
Yeah, exactly.
You might want to come back and win the next 4, but
that's going to be tough against this Carolina team.
Agreed. What else is going on around the world hockey we should know about? I did want to ask you about Team USA. They're 4-1 now in the World Ice Hockey Championships. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, look at who the coach is.
Yeah.
The guy who got fired in New York.
Right.
David Quinn, he's going to find himself. He's going to have a job for himself when this tournament is over. I guarantee people are looking at him. I think so. I mean, I think he's done a great job with the players over there. Everybody's, the competition. You know what? The competition is a competition, and you beat who you got to beat. But Sweden's always a good team. Finland's always a good team. They're playing some good teams over there, and the players are, a lot of the guys are young, and he's good with those types of players. And I think he's going to have himself a job when he gets done with this tournament. He's a good coach. I was never a problem with him. Again, some of the coaching, the decisions and the roster and everything. But you know what? He's still a good coach, and he's going to have a job. Going around the rest of the world. I mean, Pete DeBoer out of Vegas got fired this past week. That was kind of not a surprise because the roster that's put together. The team there, you talk injuries and this and that, but you can't be calling out your goalie 2 years in a row and expect to keep your job, especially with Bill Foley as the owner. He has standards. They're tough standards, but he's a military guy. He came from Army. It's not, he's been around that environment. And the Vegas Golden Knights should have been in the playoffs this year. Pete DeBoer's taking 2 teams to Stanley Cup final. I don't know if he was the guy to get this team over the hump just because of what's going on. Now they've gotten themselves in their cap trouble because they always want to spend and go for the big team guy. Maybe they have to reevaluate what they're doing and try to actually put a team together similar to their first year when they went to Stanley Cup final. You're not going to get to the final every year. It's tough, but these teams that have fell short, power play, scoring is run dry, and they need to figure out why. And that's been the issue for this team. And guys got hurt. And I've always said they traded the wrong goalie because I think Fleury was the guy for them. And I think he would have been fine with it because he accepted being in Vegas. So, we're going to see what happens where they go. Barry Trotz is interviewing around the league, went to Winnipeg. He's going to go to Philly. He's going to look at the other openings that are around there. He's going
to get his pick of the jobs, I would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he can go anywhere he wants, the best fit. So we'll see there. Lane Lambert was hired in New York with the Islanders. New voice. It's a new voice, but it's a familiar voice now. He's a vocal voice for the Islanders. So we'll see. Look, I'm gonna be interested because look, a lot of people have talked about Barzal and the relationship with the coach and all these players. I've watched Barzal at these World Hockey Championships. Something's wrong with this player. I don't know what it is. They say he can carry a line and this and that. There's guys on his own team that have more points than he does, and they're Devils players and this and that. You want to put him with the right players, that's fine, but he's got to show he can take his game to the next level. And right now he's not. So we better do it under Lane Lambert, or else it maybe wasn't the coach. Maybe it is the player.
I find the scheduling of this tournament interesting. Why would they schedule this in the heart of the Stanley Cup playoffs?
It's always this time of year.
Is it?
It's always this time of year because usually the first, it's usually like the second round's just coming to an end and guys are going over and stuff. But this is always the time of year. I've always been like, maybe like the big thing for me is like when they do the women's Olympic tournament, they don't have the worlds because you've already had like one big international tournament. Like this year, it should like same with the men's worlds. It's like you had the Olympics. Why do we need this again? But you know what? It's nice to see these players compete again because you're seeing a lot of the draft picks being able to play, like the kid Yuri Slavkovsky from Slovakia. He's one of the top prospects going this year in the draft, and he's just got a heck of a shot. He's all over the place, and he's just a good player to watch. It's more hockey on TV to watch, and it's good to see what like Team USA is doing in Canada and like all these different how they're up against the world. These young players, the future of the game. Potentially what they can do going forward.
Kenny says sort of like the basketball playoffs in the middle of the baseball season. Well, that's a little different because
one's playoffs and one's regular season,
and they're two different sports, so they're not really concerned about each other. So, and
exactly.
They're always going to have those crossovers, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Great stuff. Anything we should be focused on the next 6-7 days before we talk to you again?
Just keep an eye on what the champs are doing. Could we have some early exits? How quickly are these series going to be over? What's going to come in I want to see what goes into Game 4 with St. Louis and Colorado. What retaliation is going on? The scheduling to me, look, I have to get this off my chest in regards to the scheduling on Friday night. I thought it was a bad idea for the NHL to have 8 and 10:30 starts on the East Coast. I don't care about the PGA Championship. I know that it was on ESPN. I get it. Put the Stanley Cup playoffs on and move on. Like put it on something else because the 7 and 9:30 works. Like the late game did not start until 10 to 11 on the East Coast.
Too late.
Too late. It's too late. Like Saturday night, I don't care. 8 o'clock, there was one game. It's fine. It was over before 11. But like it's too late. Like I want to watch these games, and it's good scheduling. Like I think there was a concert in Tampa this weekend that they couldn't move, so Tampa and Florida are going tonight and tomorrow to get the schedule back online, which is dumb anyway, but whatever. So the series potentially could be over tomorrow. Think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will, but there's definitely, I think Tampa's going to win that series, but I'm going to interested to see what's going on Battle of Alberta and what's going on with St. Louis and Colorado. Will be the retaliation for what happened with Kadri. Let's see if the Rangers bounce back today on home ice. Maybe the crowd can get them into it a little bit and go from there. But to me, look out for Tampa. The rest of the hockey world should be scared because if they're going to play like this, I don't understand how they're not the favorite to win the cup. I don't get it. Like there's sports books that have Colorado. I'm like, what did Colorado do the last 2 years? The champs, it's like with these, I compare it to college football because it's right around the corner with these rankings. I don't care who is, if I have one team has 0 losses and the champs are still there with 0 losses, the champs are still number 1 in my book.
Absolutely. So it's a little different because kids are matriculated out of the school, but still.
Right.
But the
still,
champions, Georgia or Alabama. I mean, they're just going to reload, so it doesn't matter.
exactly. But to me, Tampa Bay is the favorite. I don't care what they did down the stretch. If they're going to play like what they did in games 1 and 2, forget it. Because Florida needs to stay out of the penalty box, and Florida needs to figure out to score on a power play. Look, quick story before we get out of here. In 2003, the Devils won a Stanley Cup final. They probably should have beat Anaheim a lot sooner than they did. Ken Danico hadn't played much in that final. He hadn't played much in that playoffs because it was his last season. Game 7 going home. The late Pat Burns put Ken Danico in the lineup for his final home game of his career. And it was an emotional lift for the team. He played really well, and the Devils ended up winning the Stanley Cup. I think Florida needs to put Joe Thornton in the lineup. I don't care what he can do right now at his age, but a veteran who's been there, been to a Stanley Cup final, knows how to win, won gold medals. He's not going to bring it much, but on a fourth line, on a power play, it's a different look. An emotional lift up, maybe win it for Joe, whatever, because I don't want to see Joe Thornton go out like that because he's such a good player. You brought him in for a reason. Let's see him in the lineup.
Excellent points. Jim, thanks for coming in. Listen, Alan's got a question about the Pac-12 and college football. Can you come in for Wednesday night for a little bit?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alan, we're going to follow up on this because I planned on talking about these conferences realigning and getting rid of divisions and whatnot. So I think that's a conversation we're going to have with Jim on Wednesday night.
Can I give some stuff on the Royal Rumble that's happening between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. I love it.
We'll jump on all of that. So it is good. You know what? We got to find something to talk about during the off season. So
it's so good. I love it.
They've given us some good stuff here. So we'll jump into that on Wednesday night. So
absolutely.
All right, I'll send you a note during the week.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming in. Stay cool today.
Absolutely. Stay cool out there. Thanks, everybody, all the questions, and enjoy the hockey today.
All right, excellent. Thanks again.
Thanks again. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey on Mad Radio, the fullpresshockey.com columnist. Read his column. He had a good column this week we didn't touch on about the ratings, which have been very, very good for the NHL. And Al, I promise you we'll jump into this. I just didn't want to get into a lot of college football today. Only because I need the content for Wednesdays because, we're in the off season and I got to have some stuff for them too. So anyway, make sure we bring that up. I've already made a note of it. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday night. And have a good day, Jim. Thank you, Kenny. Back to baseball, guys. Let's dive into, oh God, look around Major League Baseball, right? We'll look at the standings here in a minute, but again, we can jump into the Donaldson thing again if you guys want. But, I'm going to take a look. Well, I think what we'll do is go around the standings. If you guys want to talk about this as we're talking about the East, we can certainly jump back into this. Couple of things that are in the top of my mind in the American League as we talk about this. The Yankees continue to have the best record in baseball. Some injuries starting to creep up a little bit. Chad Green could be undergoing surgery. Big loss for the Yankee bullpen if that happens. But they continue to pace Major League Baseball with 29 wins. That defense has been much, much better. That's been a key, I think, to this. And the starting pitching has been really good, and health. You got Judge and Stanton both healthy, and both maybe for the first time in their playing time together with the Yankees, playing well and healthy at the same time. And they're able to overcome when they have a night where there is some bad pitching. They were able to overcome it yesterday. Nestor didn't pitch great yesterday. By today's standards, I guess that he probably did pitch well. He only pitched 5 innings, gave up 3 runs. But not his best outing, and he struggled throughout, in my mind. By today's standards, that's probably a good start, but Yankees picked him up. And then we had the whole Josh Donaldson thing, which, again, I think is just much ado about nothing. Again, I am not under the illusions that racism doesn't exist in this country, and there still aren't people, I'm sure, in Major League Baseball. And I don't know about Josh Donaldson, but I can tell you that in my mind, this was not a racial incident. And I do think Tony La Russa had something to do with this over the last week, fanning the flames. And if you're going to fan the flames of a guy, Donaldson would be a good guy to do it because he's chippy. He's always, as we said before, looking to stir something up. And while he's not my favorite guy, he's on my team now. And I'm not just backing him up. And I'm not excusing his behavior either. There was no reason to say it. But again, look at Tim Anderson. Don't compare yourself to Jackie Robinson and leave yourself open to these kind of comments. Baseball's become either home runs or fist fights. You know what? The games, I'll say this, and Kenny, I've been very vocal about the way the game is played, as you know, as you well know, that there's three certain outcomes, it seems, home runs, strikeouts, or walks. The game's starting to change a little bit. Yankees not as much as other teams, but there are some instances around the league where players are starting to go against the shift and do the things they need to do to because again, they're not hitting home runs with the same regularity that they were before, which I think is fine. I don't care whether it's the baseball. I don't care whether it's the weather. I don't care what it is. The fact that home runs are down, I'm okay with that. I don't need to see 10 guys hit 45 home runs this year. I'll get your comment in a second, Alan. Let me finish up here in the East. So the other story in the East that I find interesting, the Blue Jays continue to struggle. And I think, this is a classic place where I think Montoya's got to be careful, that he doesn't get caught up here. They've won a couple in a row. But this is, if this was I don't know what the ownership of the management patience level is like in Toronto. But he better be careful because they may want somebody to light a fire under this team. This is the most talented team in the division, in my mind. I think they do have more talent than the Yankees. Without taking anything away from the Yankees. But they should be playing better, and they should be better than 22-18. And losing to the Yankees is not a good thing. So we'll see what happens there. And the Red Sox winning 4 in a row, 7 of their last 3, pulling within 4 games of 500, still 11.5 games behind, but showing some signs of life. And it'll be interesting to see if they can get back in the race here in the next month or so. We get the 4th of July, you're going to start to see things solidify, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'll skip over the Central for a second. Oh, we'll get Rick's question up here since it's about the Yankees. Some of the Yankees role players are slapping the ball into the gaps and moving runners up. Yes, you know what? And that was the case last year too, Rick, when they brought up some kids from the minors, when there were some injuries, and you would see guys, and Falafa does it. The catchers do it when they actually put the bat on the ball. And that's got to be their role, right? I mean, is to move guys around for the big guys to hit the ball. That's my problem. Again, Joey Gallo, the whole thing with, I'll go back to a couple weeks ago with that 2-1 loss, or it was a 2-1 loss, to the Blue Jays, where they had a tying run at second base, and Gallo's up, and Gallo gets a walk. Okay, I'm okay with that. But he's letting pitches just off the plate go. And when he did swing, he's swinging for home runs. And then he's happy to take a walk. He's in a position where he's got to drive in a run. He's got to try to get a base hit. A walk doesn't help them there. Not when you're coming up with the bottom of your lineup afterwards. You got Hicks and Falafa and the catcher coming up. Not a good scenario. Alan, I have been regretting the Gallo trade since the day it was made. I said that day he was not going to be a good fit for New York. The only advantage he brought to the Yankees was he was a left-handed bat on a team that was too right-handed. But I didn't even realize what a win machine this guy was and what a bad approach he has at the plate. It's awful. Yes, he can walk. Yeah, big deal. Again, I got into this discussion with it might have been a Mac and Jack. I don't know. But I don't need this guy in that situation we just talked about taking a walk. If they're walking him intentionally, I get it. They're pitching around him. I get it. They weren't. Ball's just off the black. He's not swinging, trying to get a base hit. And when he does swing, he's trying to hit the home runs. God grief. Yeah, and there's the guys you got. Hopefully, they'll be better than him no matter what. I'll go back to your question here in a second. Just like Jim has renewed my interest in hockey, fantasy baseball has me watching baseball more. Yeah, I can't say that. Again, for you, I'm not dismissing that, Rick. For me, it's hard because I have to take fantasy baseball out of the equation for me because, I just don't root for the guys on my team. That's why I don't try to take Yankees, by the way. I don't know. Whatever. My team is so bad right now. Maybe that's why I'm soured on it. The offense I have is horrendous. I got guys that are good and they can't hit the ball. So whatever. I'm going to jump over to the. I'm going to jump over here to Alan's point about the Rangers Astros series. Has been fun to watch. This should be something that's a rivalry, right? And it really hasn't been that much. Of a rivalry. And it seems like it should be. Yesterday's game was what? They got some good pitching performances too here this week, as Alan mentioned earlier. Let me jump over to this game if I can find it. Yesterday, 2-1. 2-1. Verlander pitched in this game against John Gray, your ace, who pitched pretty well. 6 innings, 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. Verlander, who is just amazing, 6-1 now. He had some major arm surgery here a couple of years ago, but continues to pitch just wonderful baseball. 2-1 win for the Astros yesterday. And the day before that, because I want to get to, I think it was Friday, wasn't it? Wasn't it Friday that the kid from the Rangers had such a good game? Alan? Help me out, Alan. There it is. Perez. 9 innings, 8 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. They actually let him throw 108 pitches, 73 for strikes. Awesome throwback game. 3-0. Javier pitched pretty good for the Astros, too. Gave up 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts in 6 innings. This is a good series. This is a good potential rivalry. If the Rangers can get better, and again, Alan, I'm still not sold on your team really being I'm not sold that they're there yet, right? I think they need more pitching. Your bullpen has pitched well, as you said. Now you've gotten a couple good starts. So maybe they will be able to build on that. And I think they need to. As we talked about the other day, I think your manager is going to be in trouble if not. Pick up a couple of comments here. Oh, I already did that one. Did that one. It was Friday. Woodward come out with 2 on that. Good. You know what that shows me? Again, as I just talked with Kenny about the way the offenses play the game, the way the managers manage with no feel for the game. What's going on at the given moment? Where Woodward showed probably no other manager right now lets him even start the 9th inning or the 8th inning. I don't know. But to go out there in that spot and leave him in the game showed some confidence and maybe, again, a good feel for what was going on in the game and how well this kid had pitched. And it really, I can't bring in anybody else that's going to be better than him. Just because their job says they pitched the 9th inning, if this kid's pitching well, whether it's the guy that started the game or the guy you brought in to relieve him, we take out guys who are pitching well all the time just because the script says I should. I was happy to see that. So anyway, the rest of the American League East, listen, we got a good fight right at the top right now with the Angels and the Astros. 1.5 splitting them up with, both with very good records, 26 and 25 wins between the Astros and the Angels respectively. I think this is going to be a good battle. The Angels have slipped up a little bit in the last 10 games, going 4-6, but it's been very impressive for most of the year, and Joe Maddon's doing a really good job out there. The Mariners are not getting it done. 3-7. A lot was expected out of the Mariners this year. They just brought up Justin Upton, which shows you a little bit about their plight. And I don't know, again, I guess they want to score more runs, but, Upton got released by the Angels this year. So not a great move there. Alan, Perez has been your best starter by far. He has been your best starter, I think. Good showing, and maybe better things to come for John Gray. But again, John Gray can't be your starter. Maybe Perez will be your number one starter. He's a much younger guy, and this is maybe a guy you can build that staff around. That's what the Rangers lack right now, is a guy to build that staff around. He's had seasons of inconsistency. Yeah, he's off to a very good start, and that helps. And that momentum and confidence is such a huge thing in sports and in baseball, and pitchers and hitters specifically. If you don't have confidence, when your confidence gets shaken, it's very hard to perform. Doesn't help LA when you get swept by Texas. Listen, we're going to talk about LA when Mark Mancini comes in, because they're on a 7-game winning streak and playing really, really good baseball. And I know exactly what he's going to say. And I'm going to tell you right now, you only get play the teams on your schedule, and everybody's going to play these teams at some point. Oh gosh, right? So anyway, that's the West. We skipped over the Central. The Twins, who I picked to make the playoffs. I'll keep blowing that horn until they don't make the play. They aren't leading the division, but they're leading it by 4.5 games now over the White Sox, who are 19-20. And by the way, again, I really believe, they're just 4-10 in their last 10. They had a tough series with the Yankees last week, and some animosity was starting to brew then. And I do think that La Russa fanned the flames here, trying to fire up his team. And whatever. I don't have a problem with a manager trying to fire up his team. I do have a problem when you underline it with racial undertones where there probably shouldn't be any. And again, I don't say that lightly, and listen, there can be problems in this area. This is not a place where there is one. Let's not make it worse than it is by trying to, fabricate incidences. Other than that, the rest of the division is a mess. The Guardians are, they'll be lucky to play 500 ball this year in my mind. And one of the most disappointing stories in baseball is the Detroit Tigers at 13-26 now, playing horrible baseball. They were a chic pick to make a step forward and get into the playoffs this year in that division, and not happening. And I don't see how they're going to turn this around and get into the race. Alan's more surprised by your bullpen. Yes. Your bullpen in the last, 3 weeks, month, is pitched much better. You need a good bullpen today. If you're going to pitch, if you're going to play the game the way the general managers, I guess, who would probably lay out the game plan for the managers in most cases today. If you're going to play the game that way, you need a strong bullpen, because you're not going to let guys go 9 innings like they let Perez go the other day. They're going to pitch 6 like Gray pitched. So anyway, let's move on to the National League. The East, the Mets fortunately have got a 7-game cushion here, because the Mets have got some problems now. Scherzer's out for at least 6 weeks, maybe more. With that arm problem. I'm sorry, the oblique problem. DeGrom still struggling with arm issues and won't be back till probably July. You're looking at both of these guys out till July in my mind right now. And you don't know. They've been very, very vague on their comments about DeGrom and his arm. So I don't know what you're going to get out of DeGrom. And oblique injuries, an injury that they did not have back in the 60s and 70s that I remember, is not a good thing for Scherzer to be trying to overcome. Now the Mets have got to try to stay afloat until these guys get back and healthy, hopefully, for the Met fans, right? I say hopefully because I'm rooting for Buck Showalter. I'm not rooting for the Mets. I'm rooting for Buck Showalter, because I still wish, as well as Yankees are doing, kudos to Brett Boone. If it was up to me, Buck Showalter would have been my manager this year. He's done a great job. This is a team, and again, they have not hit well. So now the time comes, this team needs to hit well, because they're without Scherzer. They're without DeGrom. They're without McGill for a little bit, who's pitched pretty well early in the season. Chris Bassett moves up to be the number one pitcher. And then you got question marks. You got McGill, as I said, on the DL. You got Carrasco, who's been up and down. You got Walker, who's been up and down and also had injury issues. And Carrasco has not pitched a lot over the last several years. And you got Trevor Williams, who's pitched well in spots this year. So the offense and the bullpen are going to become very, very important for the Mets. And they need to step it up on offense. They played very well with situational hitting. But overall, their offense has been a bit down and a bit of a disappointment, and guys like Lindor need to pick it up. I thought Lindor would be an MVP candidate this year, and it's not too late to get back in the race for that. And they got a nice boost from Starling Marte getting back in the lineup yesterday and hitting a home run. So we'll see what happens there. Carlos has got a comment here. The Mets not getting pitching from some of these guys. Well, they're going to have to. You know, if they don't get pitching, and again, these guys don't have to go 7 or 8 innings like DeGrom or Scherzer at their best would go. They need to give them, again, they just need to give, if the bullpen can pick them up, they just need to give them a solid 6 innings, 5 innings in some cases, obviously. Keep them in ball games. But the offense is going to have to step up as well. McGill and May will be back. Yeah, but McGill's out 15 days. I don't know exactly when he went on. He may be ready to start throwing again. I'm not sure what the situation is there. We'll take a look at it before we chat again next week. One has to remember the athletes of yesteryear didn't lift. Yeah, I agree, Kenny. There are injuries today, especially in baseball, that never would have happened last year because, again, or last year, years ago, because the training, as you say, was different. And baseball players don't train the right part of their bodies. They need to train the lower part of their bodies because the season is a long one. And you need that solid base. They overtrain the upper part of their bodies, I think. So, Kenny's saying the same kind of thing. Ball players didn't lift the way they did now. And, they're better athletes today. I get that. But I need you healthy. And I think it's possible Judge has let go of some of that, and that's maybe contributed to his ability to stay on the field a lot more last year and so far this year. That and the fact that he's a lot less reckless in the field. And you got to give him credit. He would be really all in the field. You know, he would dive for balls that he really didn't have a chance to get, and maybe dive for balls with games that weren't on the line. And he's kind of reined that in a little bit. And I'm not saying guys should not put out, right? But if you're a guy as big as him and so many things can go wrong, you pick your spots to really kind of put your body in jeopardy. That's just, my opinion there. So anyway, let's back it up. Who else and again, the other thing the Mets have going for them staying alive here is the fact that nobody in this division is going to make a run at them unless the Braves get it going. Still hovering around 500, been a couple games under most. Looks like last year. But again, they better not have the mindset, last year we just turned it on. We flipped a switch and we won the division going away. Well, you won the division going away because the Phillies fell apart. The Mets quit on Luis Rojas. That's not going to happen this year. So the Braves, if they're going to make a move, I suggest they get it done in the next 6 weeks while the Mets are undermanned. And again, they may be lucky to play 500 baseball the next 6 weeks. But the way things are going, 500 baseball would keep them with a 7-game lead. So we'll see how that works out. What you got, Rick? I can't remember who said this. The best ability is availability. Actually, that's an excellent point. See if we can look it up quick. The best ability is availability. Sounds like Bill Parcells. I'm just going to say who it sounds like. Let's see. Well, I got Shannon Sharp saying it. I don't know if he said it first. Your best ability is your availability. Can you remember? This guy can't remember who we heard saying it either. I can't believe Shannon Sharp said this first, but no, I got Shazier from the Steelers saying it before that, 2017. Let's see what it says here. Who said it? Now I got to know. This is the way it is in my life, right? I've got to say this. Hey, man, they're crediting Shannon Sharp again. Bill Parcells. I don't know if he said this or not, though. I got it, but I got a gazillion quotes here, and it doesn't say that one. It does sound like a Bill Parcells thing to me, though. So they're not giving me a lot of credit. We'll try to find that for later on. All right, where was I? So that's the National League East. You know, there's not much else to talk about there. The Phillies are terrible. They're without Bryce Harper in the field for at least the next 6 weeks. He cannot play the field. He can only DH, which really hurts them because their defense is bad now anyway. So Harper's got to now DH, who's one of their better defensive players. And that makes you put Schwarber in the outfield and some other guys that might have got the DH, and that's here and there. And again, it kind of hamstrings your flexibility. And again, I just think Joe Girardi's got this team playing too much, too tight. Bum Phillips, maybe. Kenny's going to credit you, Rick, since we can't come up with anybody else. If it's between you and Shannon Sharp, I will take you. In the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers, 26-14, another team. Craig Counsell, one of the best managers in baseball. 7-3 the last 10. They're playing very consistent baseball after getting off to a rough start the first couple of weeks. The Cardinals are hanging tough. Pirates are no good. The Cubs are no good. And the Cincinnati Reds are historically bad. I don't care who tells me this team is not that bad. This team is horrendous. I mean, again, a .282 winning percentage, 11 wins as we're about to leave May here in a few days. Well, we got another week left in May, but not good. National League West, I'm sure we're going to get into this with Mark Mancini. 27-12, 7 wins in a row for the Dodgers. He's going to say, oh, yeah, but they played the Phillies and this team and that team. You can only play the teams they put on your schedule. And every one of these teams are going to play these teams the same amount of time. Basically. So there's no advantage to the Dodgers for playing these teams. It's just when they're playing them. Dodgers are really good. And I'll be telling Mark this. He's got it. I mean, again, we have to be, you've got to use some common sense. You can't just say, they're terrible because I hate LA. Ugh. What do we got here? The Brew Crew. I agree. Listen, this team, I picked them to win the World Series this year. Maybe a bit of a reach. Again, beating out the dreaded Dodgers. Picked the Braves last year. Kind of the same, for the same kind of reasons. I'm picking the Brewers. When do the Mohawks start playing? I do need, and do they need housing? Good point. You know what? I don't know who to tell you to reach out to there, Rick. You might know, but I know that Rob, I think it's Rob, right? Spagnola is the GM there. He might be able to answer those questions. And I know that Bob Scott is also very involved with the Mohawks, and I think they take people in too. So they may have that housing all set already, Kenny, but Rick might be able to answer you better. And they should start playing pretty soon, I would think, right? I would say early June, whenever the college season is over, as they're mostly college baseball players. You've hit rock bottom when you throw a no-hitter and still lose. Good point. I'm trying to remember who it was now. I don't remember. Oh, God. It's happened, by the way. The Yankees did it back in the late 80s when they were horrible. Andy Hawkins pitched a no-hitter and lost 4-0, I believe. Who was it? Oh, God. I'll wait for Alan to tell me. Oh, the Reds. Right. It was the Reds. June 4th is their starting date. They may already have those accommodations made up, Kenny, and Rick, if you got a different contact, but it would either be Spagnola or you could call out. You can. I don't have Bob. Bob's his wife is my second cousin, and I know they're heavily involved in as supporters for the team, so they might be able to help you. So yes, the Reds. Good point. Back to that for a second. The Reds did pitch a no-hitter here recently and lost the game. That tells you how bad you are. And I can remember it's happened before. Specifically, I remember it happened to the Yankees, as I said. I think Andy Hawkins might have walked the ballpark and they made a bunch of errors. But it does happen, and it does again, and I guess it is indicative of how bad you're going. Out west, though, again, the Dodgers, as well as they're playing, the Padres are surprising me a little bit with Tatis out. There you go. Just in case you missed it, Kenny, they were looking for homes for a few. So there you go. Not sure, Rick. I'm not sure who to tell them to reach out to other than two people I just mentioned. The Padres hanging in close, despite, as I said, Tatis being out, and they're getting some good pitching. They're playing better as a team, and I gotta believe that, the change in manager has had something to do with this. One of the most underrated managers to me in the game is Bob Melvin. Did a great job. He was the longest tenured manager at the time he left the A's, I think, in the current position he was in. And he'd done a great job there with teams that were lacking in talent compared to some others. Maybe not a lot of playoff success, but to be consistently around the playoffs with that type of approach to building a team that the A's have done for years. Brian Spagnola, right? Yeah. Sorry, I had the wrong name. I think it's Brian. There you go. So you're good to go there, Kenny. He'll help you out. What else in anything else? Hang on. The Diamondbacks still. By the way, the Giants have fallen back a little bit. They've been up, they've been down. They had some COVID and injury issues, and they bounced back. And they're now 5 games behind. And this is a team I've wondered if they were doing it with mirrors for a while, and maybe things are going to start catching up with this team. I don't know. Gabe Kapler is certainly unconventional, and he's done a great job with the Giants. He's done as good a job here as he did a bad job with the Phillies. So it's going to be interesting to see this race. And I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to stay in this thing, and I don't think the Rockies will. The Rockies are going to get Chris Bryant back after being out 21 days. And they had played early in the season, but just 19-20 now. And the Diamondbacks, listen, for the Diamondbacks to be 500, I think is exceptional as well at this point. So good job by them. Time we got 10:13. I think we'll jump into the NFL when we get Mark Mancini on. So we'll stick with baseball. What other news do we have in the world of baseball at the moment? Let's take a quick look. Anything that stands out to anybody? We talked about the Donaldson issue. We talked about the Mariners bringing up Upton. Harper's back. Rockies get Bryant back. Chad Green, big loss for the Yankees in that bullpen, but we'll see how they can overcome that. And let's talk a little bit, I guess, about we got some early. And maybe it's a little early to talk about this, but the trade deadline is going to come up faster than we know it. And there's going to be a lot more teams interested in making moves because there's going to be a lot more teams that are in the hunt with the extra playoff teams this year and going forward, which I'm not a fan of, but that is what it is. There's going to be a few guys. The Reds are going to look to unload more guys. Luis Castillo and Tyler Miles are going to be available. Most likely. Yankees were looking at Castillo last year. I mean, there's not a lot of guys with value left on this team, but these are two guys that are. and they're definitely going to be highly sought after as we get into this. O's rookie hit a triple for his first hit last night. That's probably a rarity. That might be more rare than home runs in their first at bat, I would guess. Might be something we can look up and check out at some point. I think Castillo is a really good pitcher, and if Castillo gets on a good team, I think he will regain the form that he had a couple of years ago before the Reds really started to plunge to the bottom. But here's some other names to keep an eye on as we go through this. Just an early note on some guys. Frankie Montas, starting pitcher for the Oakland A's. Again, they've moved most of their best players out. He's the best player. He'll be one of the better starting pitchers available, him and Castillo, in my mind. So he'll be somebody to look out for. If the Red Sox don't right the ship, look for Xander Bogaerts to maybe be on the block, as they're not going to have. If they don't plan on signing him to a long-term contract, they may look to move him. There was talk about Martin Perez, Alan, being on the block. It's all probably going to depend on the next few weeks. We get to the 4th of July, we're going to start seeing which teams are going to be buyers and sellers. And I just think it's interesting. One theory says there'll be more people, as I said, more teams looking to make trades because there's more teams in it. But that also means there's less teams looking to sell. The Rangers could convince themselves that they're still in the playoff hunt in 6 weeks and not be looking to put these guys on them. And by the way, just because there's a deadline, I do think there'll be some trades early on. I think we get to June. I think you start to see some of these guys make moves early and teams get out in front of that deadline and beat other teams to the punch. Wilson Contreras, catcher for the Cubs, definitely going to be in play. Yankees could be a player there, I think. And I think there's several other teams that'll be looking for a starting catcher as well. Jose Cantina, starting pitcher for the Pirates. Older guy, probably doesn't fit in their long-term plans. He'll definitely be somebody that'll be on the block. And there'll be no shortage of teams looking to pick up starting pitchers. Wade Miley, again, for the Cubs. Cubs are going to be weighed out of it. Wade Miley's a veteran. He's not going to stick there. Mitch Haniger, outfielder for Seattle. If Seattle doesn't get back in the race, Mitch Haniger is going to be on the block, and he's a really interesting piece for a team to add to the outfield mix they might have. Could be, again, an interesting guy to watch for the Yankees, possibly, even maybe the Mets, but there'll be a no shortage of teams looking for him. Eric Hosner, the Padres have been trying to unload Eric Hosner for over a year now. I can't believe that some team's going to take on his contract here at midseason. Unless the Padres eat a bunch of the money, and then they may move him. Plus, he's also been a big part of their early season success here. So I'm not so sure that that's going to come to fruition for a variety of reasons. Not because the Padres don't still want to move him, but more because of the contract. Kevin Kiermaier, outfielder for Tampa Bay. We all know Tampa Bay likes to make moves and stockpile young players, even while they're in contention. We've seen it several times in the last few years where they'll move guys, even while they're in contention, guys who are contributing. And Kiermaier's game has deteriorated a little bit, but there'll be takers out there for him. We talked about Luis Castillo, Mike Minor for the Reds. He's had arm injuries a lot over the last 10 years. So he's got some miles on him. He's got some injury issues, but he could be available as we head towards the trade deadline as well. Kyle Hendricks, longtime starting pitcher for the Cubs, another guy you could watch out for. And, of course, Zach Greinke, who decided to go back to the Royals this year, may end up getting himself traded to a contender, because Zach Greinke is a competitor, man. He doesn't have the stuff that he had years ago, but he is still a competitor. And probably the biggest name that is going to come up, and it's going to be very interesting what happens here, Juan Soto with the Washington Nationals. He's the one ship that they have to really be able to kind of restock this franchise. And they're going to have to make a decision whether they keep him and build around him and how long that is going to take. and possibly moving him. And there would be no shortage of people interested in this. This is one of the great talents in the game today. This kid could wake up from a sound sleep in December or January and start hitting line drives. He's a great hitter, good defensive ball player, just one of the best young players in the game. And he's going to be an MVP candidate probably this year. So it's going to be interesting to see if Washington, and again, the danger there is you trade him because you make a decision that you can't, it's going to take you too long to build around this guy, and he's going to be too expensive to keep. But what do you do to the fans? What do you tell the fans when you trade an MVP candidate, in the middle of the season? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that situation. We talked about Xander Bogaerts, definitely on the trading. The Dodgers will probably look to be interested in trading David Price. Dillison Lamet, I can't say his name. Maybe it's Lamet. Pitcher with the Padres, did a really good job in the starting rotation last year. He's been pitching out of the bullpen this year. He could be somebody they'll be looking to move. And of course, there's Joey Gallo. Can the Yankees do anything with Joey Gallo? Pickles Lebanon. Good. Welcome to the show, Pickles. I don't know if we've seen you here before, but we're glad to see you. Where would I like to see Soto land? Well, listen, as a Yankee fan, I'd love to see him playing in Yankee Stadium. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, where would be but he's going to end up with one of the teams with payroll, right? If the Nationals do decide to trade him, it's going to be people with chips to trade. So you got to look at the Yankees. It could be the Blue Jays. It could be the Red Sox. Could be the Dodgers. Could be the Astros. They don't spend a lot of money, but they got some kids that they can trade. It's going to be very interesting. Listen, Soto in a major media market. I guess Washington's a major media market, but not so much for baseball. So I think it'll be certainly interesting to see where he ends up. Trying to catch up on the MLB. Where are you calling from, Pickles? Calling from? Where are you watching from? Fans just don't want to win. Fans just want to win. Don't focus on one contract. You know what? You're wrong, Carlos. You're still wrong about this. You're never going to be right. Fans become attached to players, especially star players, especially special players like Juan Soto. So fans do care. They want winners. I agree 100%. But they don't like to see their best player get traded out of town unless it's for a really, really attractive package. And you're just never going to be right about this. Because, again, there's the marketing aspect as well. When it's your best player, you send the wrong signal to your fan base, all of a sudden you're not drawing any fans. And guess what? Teams that don't draw don't stay where they are. Why should he be on the Marlins? And the Marlins aren't going to pay him. The Marlins show no inclination to trade for a guy like now they've got people they could trade, by the way. They do have a lot of really good young players, but they've shown no inclination to spend the money that it would take to keep this guy. Pickles calling from Nashville, close to Nashville, looking to potentially move there at one point. Outside Nashville, lovely area. Certainly would love to be in that area in my retirement years. Exactly. They do latch on to players. They have for years, and they always have. And they always will. Fans aren't dumb. You're right. They aren't dumb. When you trade their best players, they start to think this team want to win. If I'm the Washington Nationals, I do not trade him. I build around him. Because I guarantee you their attendance will go into crapper for the rest of this year if they trade him. And maybe even into next year, especially if they don't trade him and start to win. Mitch Garver is another guy. Good point. Rich Garver is another guy who could well be on the move. And another guy the Yankees have had some interest in on and off as well. So very good point there, Alan. I want both. There's no reason you can't have both, Carlos. I mean, what do you think you can do? You think you can fill a team up with how many Tampa Bay Rays do you think you can are going to come along? How many of those teams can build that way? Nobody's been successful doing it except them, and they still haven't won a World Series doing it either. I'll point out. You can do both. If you're not, then get out of the game. Sell the team. If you don't have money to spend on big contracts, because every great team is built around great players who can do all the things Soto can do. I didn't say they always win championships, did I? I didn't say that. But you need, again, just like the Yankees need Aaron Judge. Soto's the face of the franchise. Soto's one of the great young players in baseball. And you send a horrendous message to your fan base if you trade him away. Now, I understand they may need to do that because that may be the way they decide to go. I'm not running that team. And I'm not telling you in this situation, maybe he won't get traded. But to say you don't need big contracts, you've got to pay to win in this game. That's why the Reds have 11 wins. Right? That's why the Reds have 11 wins. Is that what you want? Tampa, the exception and no world championships, just an FYI. None. And it's the exception to the rule. Most teams can't do it, Carlos. And it will catch up with Tampa at some point. It just will. If fans don't care about players, then why do they go to the draft? Well, good point. Why do they go to the game? Why do they boo players? Why do they cheer players? If they don't care about the players, you just say they care about the team, which I do as well. And I've been watching baseball, Carlos, for 55 years. And every team I've had players I latch onto. And players I don't want to see go, and players I've been mad. When Bobby Mercer got traded to the Giants for Bobby Bonds, I cried because he was my favorite player. I don't care if it was probably best for the team in the long run, but Bobby was a great player, and every fan in New York was upset to see him go. Same thing with Derek Jeter. What do you think would have happened if the Yankees decided to trade Derek Jeter? They don't have great players, right, in Atlanta? Acuna, who's been hurt, I understand. He's not a great player. And what's their record, by the way? They won the World Series last year. I'll give you that. And again, they struck it rich. You can't always do that, though, Carlos. That's a crapshoot all the time, too. Probably, I would say the losing side of that. What did Pickles say when he said he was dating himself? What did he say? Oh, there you go. Pickles followed Hank Aaron for 20 years. There you go. Great point. But the way sports are today is because of the attitude that Carlos is espousing, because guys don't stay. We're not going to see guys stay 20 years with the same team. Hank Aaron did get traded at the end of his career to go back to Milwaukee. That was partly his request, though. We're not going to see Derek Jeters and Cal Ripkins play with the same team for 20 years. It's just not going to happen. And that's wrong and short-sighted by Major League Baseball teams. So that's why you're dating yourself, Pickles. We're all old here, Pickles. Don't worry about it. Ask a good point. Ask the Orioles. So for every Tampa Bay, there's 3 Orioles. That's a great point, Kenny. Still waiting on Mark Mancini to come in here. You just do something while we do this. You guys can talk amongst yourselves for just a second. I got to do something I didn't do. And again, to me, having guys, if I didn't put them in a room, did I? Oh, I did. Get out of here. To me, you need to have that. It's just important to have these guys here. We'll get to some more of your comments here in a second. Good morning, Mark Mancini.
Well, how are you, brother?
Very good. Let me hang on one second. I've been talking. We've got quite a debate going on here about how to build baseball teams. I just want to get to a couple more of these comments, and I'm going to get with you real quick. Pickles was ticked when the Braves let Freddie. Another great point, Pickles. Freddie Freeman, another very similar case to Aaron Rodgers. Good grief, Aaron Judge. He's the face of the franchise. He's a leader in the clubhouse. It's more than what he brings to the field, and you can't let these guys go. Pickles, you are not 105 years old. If you wouldn't be able to use your computer, I'm pretty sure. Maybe you are. I don't know. If you are, God bless you. I mentioned trading Jeter, and we would have seen riots in the streets. I agree. Pickles is Robert's dad. Come on. Business over fandom. I think we're almost there. Hang on one second. Carlos. These guys have lost all. He fouled Baltimore because they had 420 game winners. You are old, Pickles. I'm probably the same age. I'm not 105, but I'm guessing you're around my age, Pickles. Good morning, Mark Mancini. Sorry, I wanted to catch up on a couple of those things just so I didn't.
Oh, I remember that Baltimore Orioles 420 game winners, and who beat them in the World Series? My Pittsburgh Pirates.
71. That was 71, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. And then we came back and we paid them back after they took a 3-1 series lead on us again, and we put them away in 79.
Very good
I think
point.
Baltimore hates Pittsburgh.
You know, to me, I got to tell you, and I know the people older than me and people that aren't here anymore would say I'm wrong and it was previous eras. To me, the late 60s and 70s were the golden age of baseball. It just was. Maybe it's because I was coming of age then, watching the games, but that was the golden age of baseball.
I think the 70s for me, I tell that to everybody. When you look at the teams in the 70s, you had the Reds could be the best ever. The A's, you had the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Pirates. I mean, the Yankees. There was teams in the 70s that were just unbelievable. Baltimore. And, when you look at what baseball has become today, Rob Manfred's turning into a lab rat.
Yeah, good point. Pickles will certainly give you a little plug here because he mentioned Stargell and Clemente from those teams. Obviously,
yeah.
The great leaders on that team, great players. Again, there's a great point. I'm talking about, and we'll start here. I guess I wasn't going to do this, but since we've been talking about it, debating it for about the last 15 minutes, whether you need to build your team around. If you have a young superstar like Juan Soto, this is what started the conversation, and obviously it plays into the Aaron Judge conversation. I don't think you can trade those guys because they're too important to your franchise, and they're going to be great players for the next 20 years, or 15 years. So to me, it's dangerous to trade those guys. It sends a bad signal to the fan base. You've seen that in Pittsburgh. I mean, Carlos mentioned Tampa Bay does it, but for every Tampa Bay, there's a Baltimore and there's a Pittsburgh and there's a Cincinnati and teams that can't get it done that way.
You see what's happening in Cincinnati, man. They got rid of everybody, and you see what kind of record they have.
Exactly my point. Yeah.
And then you look at Pittsburgh. Yeah, we survived when we lost Bonilla, but then the next year when we lost Drabek and Bonds, that was the beginning of the end. And you're right. You lose a big major superstar. I think the Yankees can kind of subside if Aaron Judge decides to go, back to his hometown of San Francisco. But you lose a Juan Soto, man. This thing can set you back like it set the Pirates back. A lot of lean years when he left there. Hell, we didn't make the playoffs till 2015, I believe it was. So that's a long time coming. That's a young superstar. The big markets can absorb it. The young ones can't.
Exactly my point. The fact that he's a superstar and he's not 28 or 29 or 30 years old. He's a kid. You build around this guy. You don't trade him away because everybody you get's going to be a question mark. Everybody. Right. You got to
That's definitely the key.
You need to build around. Pickles is still running off Pirates. Doc Ellis pitched a no-hitter on LSD. One of the great stories in baseball history.
I got a T-shirt.
Watch
Doc Ellis.
Guys, watch. I seem to plug a documentary every time I have Mark Mancini on. Watch. I think it's called No. I'm not positive, but it's a documentary about Doc Ellis and centers around this no hitter that he pitched on LSD.
Yeah, I think he pitched it against the Padres.
He did. I believe he walked 9 guys that day, I believe, because he said he had no clue where the hell he was. And it's a very interesting story.
He probably didn't even know what city he was in.
It was a very interesting story. Let me segue now over to one of your. I sent you a text early today because you and I hadn't talked about subjects, so I hope I don't catch you off guard too much. But I want to talk about the Dodgers, and obviously you're the number one Dodger basher in the country. But this team's won 7 in a row. The Padres have stayed with them, so I'll give them credit. But this team is really starting to click on all cylinders, and this is one of the better teams in baseball, Mark. How can you think they're not?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the Phillies were one, pitch away from sweeping a 4-game series last week till Gavin Lux, came up and stroked that triple down the line, and the Dodgers salvaged one of the games because before that, the Phillies had put up, 29 or 30-something runs in 3 games on them. So they torched that pitching staff. So once they rebound from that, they beat a downtrodden Philly team the last couple of days. They can't seem to get the bullpen going. But who did they beat in between this thing before they played the Phillies again? Was the bottom feeder Arizona Diamondbacks that can't do anything right.
Every team, including the ones you think are going to beat them, the Padres or the Giants, they're all going to play these teams. Everybody plays these teams. So
right. Well, they're going to get a Mets team here. Okay, they're going to get a Mets team here in a couple of weeks that's lost 2 of their premier starters in DeGrom and Scherzer here. So they're gonna get those teams. After this Philly series, they go to Washington. They'll get 3 with them, and they'll get the Diamondbacks for 4, and then they'll come back and they'll play the Pirates for 3.
Well,
so when you look at their next basically 4, 8, 11 games, it's look what they're facing. And then they'll get a Met team without Scherzer and DeGrom. So I think the real sleeper here that people aren't really looking at is the Padres, because the Padres now have been playing good baseball, toe-to-toe with them. Musgrove's had all his quality starts, 7 of them pretty much. He's been getting quality starts. They've got the pitching, and when they get Fernando Tatis back, that's going to be like picking up a free agent mid-season. So the Padres are really the team that's coming together here.
Yeah, I know you're pointing out the teams that the Dodgers played, but they played, I think, 5 games against the Giants and the Padres, and they're 4-1. So again, I don't understand how we can not give them any credit at all. They got a great pitching staff, and Cody Bellinger is Cody Bellinger, but anything he.
Well, maybe it's the way I look at it, like the Yankees. The Yankees have been sneaking up on teams too. And boy, what a comment yesterday. I don't understand that whole thing. I'm not going to play it too much into that, but he was referring to.
I did have that on my list to talk to you about. So let's chat. Yeah. We can chat about that for sure. I mean, to me, it's a lot to do about nothing, but.
Right. And the Yankees, we'll find out what they're going to do, a couple months into the season too. I mean, Toronto's been playing, pretty good baseball. They've been held back a little, but I think when we get into dog days of summer, we're going to find out a lot about the Dodgers and Yankees.
Well, we will. We'll find out about every team, right? I mean, the Diamondbacks you talked about, they're playing 500 baseball or around it, and they've been, beating expectations. But again, it's what happens when you get into those dog days and how you handle that. And the Dodgers, Yankees, the Padres. I mean, look at the Mets and Padres faded badly during those dog days last year. So they still have something to
part
prove.
of the problem was Padres had a manager in Jace Tingler that didn't know how to manage. Now they got a manager in Bob Melvin that knows how to manage, and this team is clicking.
The 2 most important moves made in the offseason to me were managerial moves: is Buck Showalter in New York and Melvin going to San Diego. They were the biggest moves of any player movement, right?
Yeah, unbelievable the way those 2 franchises resurrected themselves to get back to the promised land, and still waiting for my Pirates to get there. I mean, I got to watch them on Apple TV the other day against the Cardinals, coming up short. You know what's amazing about the Pirates is they're losing, but they're hanging around, man, and they're giving you games. They're losing 5-3, 5-4. That thing can turn here and there, down the line. So I like the way they're playing baseball. You're not going to roll into Pittsburgh and pound these guys.
Right, agreed. Again, they're doing a good job. As we said the last couple of weeks, they've started to lock up some of their young guys, which they really need to do if they're going to build something here, because they don't have enough depth by far, and they need to start locking some of these guys up. I mean, they were talking about trading Reynolds over the winter and into the spring, which it's smart that they didn't do it, and then they locked him up, for a few years.
Yeah, good pitching, Quintana and Brubaker. The kid that's really going to come around, and he was a high draft pick with him, was Mitch Keller. He's been stumbling of late, but the back end of the bullpen, once that East Coast weather starts to heat up, I think the bats will too, with Hayes and Reynolds and guys like that. But boy, Vogelbach, he's been playing some good ball out there, man. That guy looks like a buffet table.
I guess I'll ask you only because Alan is one of our loyal followers, and he's a big Texas fan. He thinks that the heat and humidity in Texas will help Seager and Simeon out there, but I'm not. It'll help them, for a time, and hitters tend to hit better when the weather gets warm. I get that, but the heat and humidity out there will also wear them down through the course of the summer as well. I don't think the Rangers, and Alan and I have had this debate for a while. Despite these two big signings, I don't think this is a team ready to compete for the AL West, although they played a good series against the Astros so far this weekend, because I don't think they have the pitching to do it.
Yeah, no, they don't. It's a tough division, too. Look at it. Looks like Houston and the Angels are trying to separate themselves. I don't know what happened to Seattle. I had Seattle to do some damage this year, but, it's still early. We're not even at Memorial Day yet. We still got to get into Father's Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, stuff like that.
You get to 4th of July, you start to see what your team is, I think, by then. And you'll see I think you're going to see trades earlier than you saw them last year, because there's so many teams that are going to think they're alive in this thing.
Yeah, the big surprise would have to be the Twins. The Twins have been hanging up there late, and, what the Yankees have done, and, the Mets getting out of the gate, but the Phillies still got a problem that they've never been able to address, and that's that bullpen. That bullpen has been costing them games, and if they don't address it, it's going to cost them a division.
Well, between that and the defense is horrendous, and now one of their better defensive players, Bryce Harper, can't play the field for at least 6 weeks, maybe longer, because of an arm injury that he has. He's going to DH, which only puts another bad defensive player on the field. I mean, Schwarber will have to play defense every day, and that's not a good sign.
And the team nobody's talking about, and they've had their best, 40-game franchise record, is the Milwaukee Brewers. They got pitching, they got a bullpen. So
I can tell you this guy's
be careful of the Brewers.
I can tell you this guy's talking about him because I picked them to win the World Series. So
yeah, that's a tough squad there, and Council's done a very good job. Kind of has that low-key manner like George Bamberger had.
One of the most underrated managers in baseball is Craig Counsell, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What and how do you think? So I'll concentrate a little bit on. We'll stay on baseball for a little bit. The Mets, are they going to be? Listen, I think Buck will earn his money here the next 6 weeks to 2 months as he waits to get his two top pitchers back healthy. This team's got to start scoring some runs, and Buck's going to have to manipulate that pitching staff to keep them alive here. The good thing is they got a 7-game lead, and 500 might keep them with a 4-game lead by the time these guys come back.
Well, not only that, if you can play your games in Colorado and buy some time where it's snowing, then you can get these guys back quicker without playing baseball. But they finally got to play yesterday, split the doubleheader, got hammered in that second game. So, yeah, you got to get these guys back. Got a nice lead. If you can tread water till at least one of them get back, who knows when DeGrom's coming back. He hasn't thrown since last year. Scherzer, 6 to 8 weeks. That's a month and a half, 2 months. That's a long time to lose your other guy. So who knows? Let's find out and see if these guys can help. And they lost another starter, I think, in McGill here.
Yeah, McGill's been out for a week or so. I think he's on a 15-day disabled list. So he's supposed to be back, I think, in a week or so. But important that he does because, Bassett's now the ace of that staff, and everybody else behind him is a question mark. So whether it's injuries or ability. In Carrasco and Walker. Williams has pitched well with on limited opportunities this year, but Pickles brings up a point about the teams that do well, they stockpile arms in the bullpen, and the bullpens are so important with the way baseball's played today.
Exactly.
You got to have arms out there, and you got to be healthy. And
and swinging into the Josh Donaldson thing, I mean, I didn't see it. I know the bench is emptied and everything, but, I mean, let's not take stuff out of context here. I mean, the guy made a comment about Anderson referring to himself in 2018 as Jackie Robinson. I mean,
which is foolish in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying to myself, what's the issue here, guys? Are we trying to make something out of something? Yeah, I mean, we're changing names in sports, and I'm saying to myself, if you really want to look into something and sit around here and have nothing to do and say I live in a city where I don't want to be associated with the Pirates and Steelers, let's go protest. I mean, I don't quite understand this whole thing with Anderson. I had a lot of respect for him, but boy, did I lose it pretty quick.
Well, I'll tell you, and again, I'm under no illusions that racism isn't alive and well in this country. We know that it is, and there's enough issues around without creating ones out of nothing. And to me, to your point, and to me, the way I think what probably part of what happened here is this started a week ago when they played a series last week. And I think that Tony La Russa has been fanning the flames here of his team, trying to get them riled up because they're not playing well. And this is classic Tony La Russa to find something to harp on and find a way to get his team fired up. And I think that's what came to fruition yesterday.
Well, not only that, and this past week too, we saw Charles Barkley sit there outside with the TNT crew in Oakland. I don't know if you saw it or not, but they were heckling Charles, the fans, lighthearted. It's kind of like when I did the ring announcer for the wrestling. Yeah, you throw a beer at you, making sure it's full next time you throw one.
Yeah, but
here's the thing. Yeah, but here's the thing. He turns around and makes a comment that if you don't stop heckling me, I'm going to go F your mom.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, how do you get away with that? If that was turned the other way and you or I said that, we'd be pulled off the air and we'd be vilified.
Yep.
It is absolutely crazy how somebody like that can get away with that in that much stature. And then somebody said, well, they're making a sitcom about it now with them. And I'm saying to myself, unbelievable the way, these guys can get away with it. You create gray areas for certain people, then it becomes black and white for others. It's terrible.
It is a little odd, right? I mean, I don't get it. There's so many things, and we're hypocrites in a lot of ways in sports, right? We don't want bad behavior, but then we encourage it. So I don't really.
Yeah, the minute we don't agree with something, then we're this and we're that. But you know what? I always tell people, no, I'm not this and I'm not that, because my idol was Willie Stargell, and go find out what kind of color skin he had.
Good point.
And that's it. That's the way you look at it. But yeah, that whole thing with I would have taken it as a compliment, or somebody remembering what I said. I mean, it's kind of like the XFL team years ago, the New York, New Jersey Hitman. Being Italian, I didn't feel anything towards it. I figured, oh, that's a great name. But other people can look in it and figure out, man, we got to get rid of this.
Well, first of all, you know what? Don't compare yourself to a guy who, changed the face of baseball, Tim Anderson. Just, that's a silly thing to say anyway. And I got to go read this whole article. I haven't read it, and I need to see maybe more context to it. But don't compare
I think I think Josh Donaldson was basically saying, hey, listen, he was just referring to what he said, and it was nice that he remembered what he said in 2018, and, he's keeping him on his toes. But this guy took it another way, and it's unfortunate. It's like paying a compliment to somebody wearing, a nice outfit or something, and then they go, oh, it's sexual harassment. So I don't know. It's crazy today. I mean, what's going on in today's society.
Yeah, Alan's got a comment here that I'll bring up here in a second. We're gonna switch over to the NFL a little bit, and I don't know if you've looked at. Again, it's really early to look at these things, but the NFL Power Index, NFL Football Power Index, the FPI from ESPN has been released, and I think there's some interesting things here, and a couple things I wanted to point out to chat with you about, and we can certainly jump into other things. The Bills, they've got rated number 1. And with the highest projected chance to make the playoffs and the highest chance to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. I'm a little surprised at. The Rams are number 4. But one interesting point, and you can comment on those two things, but before you do that, I also want to interject that They've got your Pittsburgh Steelers at number 27 in these rankings.
Well, basically they when they went to Pittsburgh, they went there when the steel mills were going and stuff like that, so they couldn't really see the city and what it was all about. So ranking us 27th is absolutely crazy. But I will tell you this. The Bills are going to be hell-bent on getting there. The Rams, yeah, they've dropped, and we've talked about the NFC, but I'll tell you who could become the new Cincinnati Bengals. And you might disagree with it, but I'm going to I saw this article, and I'm going to run with it. I like the New York Jets to become the new Cincinnati Bengals to get to do some damage. They were 4-12, I think, last year, or 4-13 or whatever it was, but who cares? I think this team's coming together. We'll find out what Zach Wilson can do. You know, another year under his belt. I think they're putting together something. They had a good draft. Keep your eyes on the Jets.
By the way, just to give you some context, if I sort this differently, percentage chance to win the Super Bowl, the Rams are second. So they aren't that far back. And Carlos has got a good point. You know, he says the Bills are backwards in these rankings. And let me just address the rankings, Carlos, like I do, and you bring them up. This is just one set of rankings, right? If I pulled up 10 more, I could find the Steelers at 10, and I could find the Bills at 11 somewhere if I wanted to look hard enough. So this just happens to be the one that I landed on. So I'm not saying this is the gospel.
Right.
But to your comment about the Jets, I mean, I do think they'll make a step forward this year. They've got them way down at 31. I don't think they're contending.
Well, these same guys that are pulling this thing probably had the Cincinnati Bengals in that situation last year, and then all of a sudden they didn't see it coming.
Let's take a look, because I can tell you right now, in last year. Oh, that's not going to work because they've already. Hold on a second. I can do this a different way. So I can't do it by playoffs because they're at 100% because they've already played. Yeah, this isn't going to work because it's based off of what their end of season record was. I don't have the preseason stuff. So I agree with you, though. They probably were at best in the high teens in these type of polls, I would think. Very few probably had them in the top 10.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No way. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody had them to go into Tennessee and win that, and Kansas City and get to the Super Bowl and give the Rams all they can handle before Cooper Kupp makes that catch.
And I will say, for Allen's benefit, his Cowboys are the sixth choice to win the Super Bowl. And above that, here's the top five. I'll give to you or top 10 real quick. Bills, Rams, Packers, Chiefs, Chargers, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Broncos, interestingly enough, and the Arizona Cardinals are the top 10. I
keep thinking the people that vote for this thing must have a lot of presence in Dallas and Denver, because it just seems like they have the Cowboys up there every year. There must be a love fest going across the country.
Yeah, I think this is a computer ranking, though. I don't think this is input from humans. I mean, look, humans can manipulate computer rankings by the information they put in it, of course. And by the way, and I'll mention this too, because Alan mentioned before that he wants to, and maybe we'll do this one Sunday, because you and I are both kind of high on the Commanders in the NFC East, and he wants to debate us both about that. So maybe we'll do that.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to get into that thing.
Because
definitely get into that.
I do think the Commanders have a chance to win that NFC East. And just, again, I think they got the best coach in the division, and I think unless the new coach shows me differently.
Well, the defense will be stronger. Chase Young will be back. They got a quarterback in there, Carson Wentz. Yeah, I really like it. They beat the Bills to the punch on the running back situation there. So I like the Commanders.
Well, Pickles is agreeing with it. He thinks the Jets will be a surprise team in the NFL, and he thinks they will win more games than the Titans, which ought to fire up my mad New Yorker here in a second. He's a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, there's a lot of – I don't know what's going on in Tennessee. I might have to change that name from the Tennessee Titans to the Tennessee Tuxedos.
You know what?
That little cartoon thing. Remember the penguin? Yeah. Speaking of the Penguins, man.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You lost a heartbreaker in Game 7 last week.
Oh my God! I can't, these 3-1 series leads is like having a 3-0 lead in baseball or hockey. I mean, you're destined to blow it. And when you have a team down 3-1, and in game 5 you're up 2-0, you can't put them away. You bring them back to Pittsburgh, you can't put them away, and then you let them off the hook and you get them to overtime and they put you away. Wow. And then the Stars, my favorite Western Conference team, got beat. So, but I will tell you this: the Battle of Alberta, man, that's a friggin' civil war, man. I'm getting excited with that.
Yeah, they're playing well. Obviously I'm a Ranger fan, and in honesty, I can be a fair weather fan in hockey. If they're not doing well, I don't pay as close attention. But this is a team that can't seem to play unless they get themselves in a hole, and now they're down 2-0 again, back to the wall. Big game 3. The old saying, and I've said it a bunch of times here recently, these series don't start until the home team loses a game. Well, today's the biggest game of the Rangers season so far.
Well, let me tell you, Carolina's not Pittsburgh. Carolina can play defense. They got young thoroughbreds there. They're a dangerous team. I think they're on a collision course with Tampa here because Tampa's going to dispose of Florida. Florida's kind of run out of gas after that grueling series with the Capitals, so that's going to get interesting. And Colorado's trying to pick it up out in the West. They're trying to, say, hey, wait a minute. We were supposed to do something a few years ago. Colorado reminds me of Washington. Everybody has Colorado doing something, and they kind of, don't. But they'll steal a cup here and there. And God, it's been a while since the Bort days against the Rats in Florida. Well, since Colorado's done something with Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, as we talked about with Jim Biringer earlier, you can't count the champions out until they're done. And the Lightning got a 2-0 lead against Florida, and it's looking like they may find their way to the finals again. Who knows?
Yep. Then the Bucks took a turn for the worst, and I couldn't believe that. But no Middleton there, and it's going to be an interesting series. But maybe Boston will win it to break the tie with the Lakers.
All right. Well, Mark, we're running out of time here. I didn't even notice. It's our time flies by so fast. So real quick, I got 2 minutes. What do you got to tell us about this coming week for Mark Mancini?
Well, James Donaldson had Earl of Pearl Monroe on yesterday. It was really good, and we were so blessed.
I listened. Great show.
Oh, my God. It's unbelievable. And, talking about some of them players that turned the NBA around and made it what it is today. This week, the Pirate Podcast tomorrow. It'll be from Pittsburgh, the start of the Rockies, and then we'll catch him, in San Diego on Friday. And man, oh man, good things happening. We're going to launch a show out of Milwaukee now.
Oh, cool!
So if I wasn't in Miami and Detroit and Philly and all this, now here comes Milwaukee.
You're all over the map. You're the hardest working.
But this is the show. This is the show that's sweeping the country, dude. We got to get you across the board here with us. When you got to jump in?
Soon. I got to find time. I got to quit my real job apparently and jump.
I love you, brother. I love what you're doing. And I look forward to this each and every Sunday. I know it's Memorial Weekend. We got a good show coming up next week.
We do. We're going to have a lot of fun next week, and we'll definitely have a show next week because Memorial Day brings a lot of important stuff. So we'll be talking about it all. Thanks for coming.
Little madness on Memorial Weekend with Mancini.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Memorial Day madness with Mancini. I love it. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Mark. Have a great day.
You too, my brother. Have a blessed one.
All right. Thanks. Guys, I'm running out of time because I'm up against it. 2 hours is all I get, and I won't be able to share the show to Roku. So I want to thank all you guys. Pickles, thanks for being a new listener, and I hope you'll join us every Sunday and join the College Football Huddle if you're a college football fan on Wednesdays, and the Are You Serious show with the Mad New Yorker, and I usually debate some topics. So I hope you'll show up and support us there as well. So, and guys, the rest of you, Rick and Kenny and Alan and Carlos, thanks for coming in today. You guys do a great job helping carry the show. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys on the flip side, and I don't think I'm going to get a chance to play my Dream Ride experience, but make sure you check out the Dream Ride and you check out the Keep the Dream Alive. We'll share that information on the Facebook page. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great weekend. Rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.